Hey friends, welcome to Business of Soul Care. I'm Eric Nevins. I'm also the host of Halfway There podcast, which is a show where we talk about the ups and downs of the spiritual journey. It's honest conversations with ordinary Christians about today's Christian experience. You can see where that reaches soul care, kind of gets on that about the spiritual journey.
And I'm Patrick Myers. I'm the founder and director of Vector Ministries. I help people discover more of God's presence and power in their lives through coaching, counseling, and spiritual direction.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we're talking today, Patrick, about being worthy of hire, because we've talked a lot about how a lot of soul care professionals, if they can't get a job in a church, then they feel like maybe there's something wrong with them.
Right. And what we did to get this education and this experience and get to this place in our life cost an awful lot. It was a big investment in terms of time, money, huge student loan debts. I don't know about you, but
yeah, totally.
Huge student loan debts, and
still paying those things.
Just a lot of dedication to be able to do this and to go through all that education, all that dedication to the service of God, to do ministry. You're definitely worthy of hire. If you've gone through that, if you've finished the gauntlet of seminary and you've put in your time and experience ministering, volunteering for your local church, you definitely have something of value to offer the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple ways that is true. I think one, if you're gifted by God to do soul care, that is it's a unique kind of gift that is probably all of the qualification you need. Right. Yeah. I mean, at some level, I think also, if you've done a program and you've done it, whether it's spiritual formation, there are a lot of places, right? Like I'm trying to think of some of them. You're more familiar with them than I am.
Some of the training organizations.
Yeah. That do them. And if you've spent the money and the time to invest in that, to learn how to do spiritual direction, you're more than qualified.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that maybe is something that you should take out of your repertoire of your beliefs, that that you're not worth hiring.
You know what really helped me after I got out of seminary, I was unable to find a job, and that rocked me for a little bit. When I felt God call me to do my own organization, to start Vector Ministries, I really did not feel like I was worthy of hire in a lot of ways. I wanted to believe it, but in my heart I didn't. What helped tremendously was I wrote down a resume of my qualifications, and I was like, I really am qualified. I had a hard time, like, in my heart owning that, but on paper, through the time, through the experience, through all of that stuff, through the call from God, I was more than qualified, and I had to reconcile what I felt in my heart with what I saw to be true, and this needed to change. I needed to believe that I was worthy of hire here before anybody else would think that I was.
Yeah, I think I had that same problem, although I didn't do the exercise. So it was, just feeling like, even though I had a master's degree, that I wasn't really worth it, if I couldn't find a job in the church. And that was a lot of other things. It wasn't just the church. I mean, I graduated in the middle of a recession. So that's a bad idea.
It was a bad.
Note to self, don't do that again.
But that idea that that your value is if you get hired.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's there. So like the idea that I'm a pastor only if I have a pastoral role, or I'm a spiritual director only if somebody's doing it.
Yes.
But the truth is, like, you're a spiritual director, period. If that's what God's called you to do, you need to believe that, and your external circumstances will shift. They will come into alignment with that. If you own it, if you believe it, if you walk in it, the world around you will see you that way.
Right. So there's this book that I read a long time ago. It's called The Making of a Literary Life by Carolyn C. And so I wanted to be a writer. I'm still going to be a writer.
I am a writer.
There you go.
I'm not published, but I am a writer.
I think we've just proved our point.
Yeah, we just stepped into that.
But that's kind of what she says, is that you have to, if you want a literary life, you have to write every day.
Yeah.
And so if you want a spiritual life, you have to, or to be a spiritual director, you have to direct as often as you can, right? But also she says, you need to call yourself a writer.
Yeah.
Call yourself a writer, and start introducing yourself that way. And so I had to do that with podcasting. I mentioned my podcast Halfway There, and it took me. I started my show almost 3 years ago, and it took me a good long time to start saying to people. I would say it probably took me a whole year before I started saying to people, I'm a podcaster, even though I had 52 episodes under my belt, right? Well, what do you do? I'm a podcaster.
Yeah.
And after a while, it just started to become my identity until last week I was at a conference for podcasters, right? Because I'm a podcaster. And so that, like, taking that mantle and owning it is really powerful. It's a powerful exercise. So like for you, did that happen with spiritual direction at some point?
It was a process like that where I really had to step into it with boldness. Like I felt like to call myself a spiritual director, to call myself a coach was something that I didn't feel quite there yet. But the more I practiced it, the more I felt it. And the more people receive you in that way, they understand that. And to really know, just like as an author, I believe I'm called by God to write and to be a published author. I will see that happen someday. That day is not today. It hasn't happened yet. But to know that I'm an author, even though I haven't been published yet, that's huge. That's what's going to make the difference for me.
Yeah. So for our friends watching or listening to this, like, what can we encourage them to do that will really kind of move the needle for them in terms of feeling worthy of hire and stepping into their gifts?
Yeah, and that's the reason we're doing this video right here, and the reason we're doing the Business of Soul Care class is that for those of us that if you've been called by God to do some kind of soul care ministries, if He's given you a vision if He's given you a passion and a vision, if He's anointed and appointed you to do something, we want to see you be sustainable in that. We want to see you own that call by God and really step into that. And we want to help offer a community of support where you can actually do that and be sustainable in your call.
Amen. Patrick, anything else we should say about being worthy of hire?
Well, if you're called by God and you've gone through the process, in the worldly process, to get educated, to get the experience, if you've been doing lay ministry of some sort, spiritual direction for fun and for free or something like that, you definitely have something of value to offer. And we want to help you like explore that and really be able to make a living doing what God has gifted you to do. Yeah,
I think the message is don't let feeling inadequate get in the way of where you actually are and what you deserve to do. So, I think definitely step into it, press into your gifts and your call, friends.
Absolutely.
All right. This is Business of Soul Care. I'm Eric. That's Patrick. Thanks for joining us, guys.